What's the boy Chains the Clown here, back with a brand new video. Today I'm going to be discussing different decks. This is going to be a new series on my channel where I talk about decks and how I feel about them. So today we're going to talk about Kaijus, because that's what I just had a thought of, and I want to make my first video on Kaijus. You guys can tell me what you guys want me to do for my next deck list thing. I have to look at it if I don't know the deck off the top of my head. But today we're talking about Kaijus today. Kaijus are a special case because they can bring themselves out to your opponent's side of the field, and if your opponent controls one, you can control one as well. Just clean off the bat. It's a deck that benefits both you and your opponent, but there's many ways to avoid it. There are many different types of Kaijus. There's Gamma Seal, I have all the Kaijus actually. I don't remember all their names, the fuck. But I know Gamma Seal is the best. Raiden, the Thunder King one. There's a bunch of other ones too. There's a dinosaur one, there's a lot of them. There's an insect one, so it's great for your insect decks if you're trying to run it. But anyway, back on topic, guys. The Kaiju archetype is actually based off of Japanese things called Kaijus. Literally, they're called Kaijus. They're big monsters. So they're somewhat like the danger cards, which, by the way, I really, really want. They're so fucking cool. But anyway, actually, yeah, I'm gonna try something. Anyway, back to what I was saying. The danger cards are really cool looking as well. But Kaijus are my personal favorite because I personally have played with the deck itself, and I have to say I love the Kaiju deck so much. But all bias aside, it is not that great of a deck because your opponent can, I think, Ghost Ogre your special summon. No, Ash yours. So then they're carrying a Kaiju and you're not. So you're kind of fucked. So you just blew up the board for nothing if you had a good board and that was your last resort. You just wasted your entire turn. But it would go to graveyard. No, it wouldn't. It would stay in deck. It'd be terrible. And Slumber is actually at 1, so you can't constantly do it. Unless you have a Griffin, which is another build I like. The Nightmare Kaiju build is a great build to have to recycle your Slumbers, your Book of Moons, and your Monster Reborns. It's amazing. Excuse me. Slumber, amazing card that blows up the board. Then you can summon a Kaiju to your side of the field and your opponent's in attack mode, and they must attack if able. So you would give your opponent a Gamma Seal or something. But this combo is really fun. I learned this off my buddy Ryan. So shout out to you. Your deck is next, by the way. He ran a Kaiju. He ran the Thunder King Kaiju. So I was like, okay. He Regeki'd, then Monster Reborned it. So I was like, well, fuck my life. But this was when I was playing my old deck, so it wasn't as great. But this deck is very iconic. It's very, very fun. The basis itself is a free, you're getting rid of your opponent's field. So with the rule of Master Rule 4, you can get rid of their Link monster, their Xyz monster. If it's a Baguska, that's a big threat, except for when you're playing with Gamma Seal. Or, that's a deadly combo. Oh, fuck, that has a deadly combo. I never thought about that one. Interesting, whatever. It's a deadly combo for this deck to work out well. The deck itself isn't that great. The trap card for it is very, very, very terrible. That's why you would never run it, in my eyes at least. You would rather run Files, the field spell, Slumber, all of the fucking Kaiju cards at 2 each. Certain special summon cards. I personally ran 3 Cyber Dragons in mine because I personally thought that it was going to work, and it did just fine. I also ran Cyber End in my Kaiju deck, and Malefic Cyber End. Reason, I don't fucking know, but it made so much sense. It was phenomenal. But the deck needs a lot of setup for it to even work. You need to have certain draws for it to work. So, if you're gonna draw into, like, the downfalls with this deck here, this is the major one. Your main go-to card that you need to think about when you build this deck is none other than Slumber. Now, Slumber, what you gotta do is have to special summon 2 Kaijus from your extra deck with different names. The biggest issue with this deck is, or not the biggest issue, it's a very easy concept unless you're getting the Kaiju you want on the field in your hand. And you have both copies, so you have to summon it to your opponent's side of the field as well as to yours, and pray you have Geki in your hand to get rid of their board, and then you can't really Monster Reborn it because you only control 1 Kaiju at a time, according to each card text itself. It's a very risky deck to run if you don't draw what you need. It relies on your opponent heavily, but there are ways to skirt around it. Specifically, Slumber as well. You wouldn't want to waste it because this first effect is popping every Technician monster as cost. So if there isn't any of them, you can't use it. There has to be at least one on the field to use it. And it's not great if there's not a big standing on it. Like, against the Goki deck, it is phenomenal. Against Crystal Beasts, my build, it's weak. There's no point. Against a lot of decks in the current meta, they require board economy, so it's great in this current meta, even though it's a rogue deck now. It's surprisingly rogue. It's kind of bad. But the biggest thing about this deck that makes it so much fun is that you never know what's going to happen. Like, you give your opponent a free monster, and in the end, you can get ashed. It's obnoxious, but it's kind of fun. I personally adore this deck, like I said earlier, but the biggest flaw is Slumber being at 1 and not at 2. If it was at 2, it wouldn't change the meta, because we have Ash Blossom and stuff. Even at 3, it wouldn't cause a big issue, because no one really runs Slumber in their deck. Because that was seen last format a lot. Now it's not. And it's like, okay, cool. But the new idea for this deck, because the Battle of Legends came out, from what I've seen actually when I played the Kaiju players that still adamantly run this deck, is a Time Lord build. So to have monsters that would be only social summon monsters. And you would have to make this completely work. For this to work, you have to have a Time Lord in your hand. But you need to also have Slumber, but that wouldn't work. Now would it? But here's why. What happens with this deck is you need to only have 1 Kaiju in your hand. Get rid of a monster, swing over it, and if it's a Zaphion, shuffle it back into the deck. I think. No, that's the fire one. I'm sorry. That is the fire one. That is Metagon, I think. I don't remember. But shuffle it back into the deck. So you're getting a recycle every time. And for the fire one that shuffles back every card on the board, they always run like 2 or 3. I personally would run 2. Because literally it's amazing. The deck does not revolve around links. If you really want to, you could run Infinity, but that's a weird idea. Because you need, I think, 3 level 6 light monsters, and there's no level 6s in this deck. So it would have to go off of Nova into Infinity, so it's going to be autistic as fuck. But I digress that. The biggest problem with this deck as well is the limitations you can have on it. Like, the Time Lord build is brand new, but it's super inconsistent. The Cyber Dragon one I saw once was very inconsistent. They can splash into many different decks, but they're always so inconsistent, it's crazy. Like, when you need it, you won't get it. So you're better off running a Mother Spider in your fucking deck just to have it. But you're getting rid of 2 cards on their field. So it's even better. But Kaijus are more valuable because they have more support. All in all, if I was going to rate the Kaiju deck out of 5, I would give it a 3 for the sole purpose of the builds being inconsistent, Slumber being at 1, the Kaiju cards not being that easy to come by in my eyes. The fact that they're so easily counterable, they're not worth it. I would give them a 2, but the effects save them. Because they can get rid of a free monster, and with Raiden, you just get tokens that equal his attack. And with the anti-war, you can just equip 1 from your hand if your opponent controls 1. It's insane. So you have to be very careful about it. So it doesn't really matter. So you could literally be running Thunder King in it, and you're like, oh hey, I'm gonna anti-war this. Oh look, I'm summoning my anti-war actually. Because you have a Gamma Seal, I'm gonna use the effect of anti-war Kaiju, equip my Thunder King, and just swing over your fucking my Gamma Seal. It's great. The cards may be amazing. It probably would get hit if it was fucking meta deck at this moment. But it's not. Yeah, I think it's a great counter to banishment decks because Grand Maju. But all in all, 3 out of 5 stars for Kaiju deck. And I'll see you guys in the next one. I am planning a deck already, but if you guys don't want to see it till later on in the series, let me know. Deuces.